read 2 Samuel chapter 18 in the King James Version. Some of these chapters are quite long. And David numbered the people that were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. And David sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third part under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also. But the people answered, Thou shalt not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us, neither if half of us die, will they care for us. But now thou art worth 10,000 of us, therefore now it is better that thou succor us out of the city. And the king said unto them, What seemeth you best, I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absolom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absolom. So the people went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David, and there was there a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men, for the battle was there scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. And a certain man saw it, and told Joab, and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak. And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. And the man said unto Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in mine hand, yet would I not put forth mine hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king charged thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware that none touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise I should have wrought falsehood against mine own life, for there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself wouldest set thyself against me. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom, while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about, and smote Absalom, and slew him. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom, and cast him into a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled, every one to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up for himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, Let me now run, and bear the king tidings, how that the Lord hath avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. Then said Joab to Cushi, Go tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cushi bowed himself unto Joab, and ran. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, yet again to Joab, But whosoever let me, I pray thee, also run after Cushi. And Joab said, Wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing that thou hast no tidings ready? But whosoever said he, Let me run, and he said unto him, Run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain, and overran Cushi. And David sat between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the well, and to the wall, and lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man running alone. And the watchman cried and told the king, and the king said, If he be alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came apace and drew near. And the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called unto the porter, and said, Behold, another man running alone. And the king said, He also bringeth tidings. And the watchman said, Methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, All is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Blessed be the Lord thy God, which hath delivered up the man that lifted up their hand against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the young man Absolom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, When Job sent the king's servant and me thy servant, I saw a great tumult, but I knew not what it was. And the king said unto him, Turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And behold, Cushi came, and Cushi said, Tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord hath avenged thee this day of all them that rose up against thee. And the king said unto Cushi, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushi answered, The enemies of my lord the king, and all that rise against thee to do thee hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son. Oh boy, there's a lot here. A lot. Sermon upon sermon. One thing in particular, though, verse 8. This is something to, I've heard sermon upon sermon, different sermons, particularly in this chapter. Listen to this. For the battle was there scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. So once again, something happens to where there's a battle, but things that you would think would be happening, like sword upon sword, people would be killing each other because they're fighting against each other in a war, like a civil one. However, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Interesting. Well, that tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about people, and it tells you about who actually is in control. So take note of that, because once again, David knew that there was going to be an issue, that there was going to be a battle, and he had already referred and left things into the Lord, whereas Absalom, he was just caring about the kingdom and having power. So now we know that Israel's being routed while David's men are slaughtered. There was a great slaughter, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Hey, leave it to the Lord. There's something else here, though. So take note of that, because once again, the Lord's definitely at work. But right here, this is something that can be difficult. This is one of those potential difficult, hard subjects. Some would even utilize the word taboo. Verse 33. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gates, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son. His son was trying to take his life. His son ends up dying because his military leader, one of his military leaders, ends up killing him. So he gets a report thinking that Absalom's just been arrested. That's not the case. Knowing that Absalom just went through all of this out of spite, out of wickedness, and yet he is still more upset about his son passing away than the kingdom being able to move forward out of this mess that was caused by his son. It can be extremely difficult, particularly when it's a loved one. When it's a loved one acting out, when it's a loved one doing something that you know and other people know is not correct. Whatever it may be. Breaking the law, having a bad relationship, not with you, but with their significant other, acting out at school, doing things that have consequences, particularly in society. But your own thoughts and feelings, emotions, sometimes, even though you're like, this is incorrect, this is wrong, because they are your flesh and blood, because they are significant other, there's more, sometimes leeway, sometimes emotional issues when it comes to it, more distraughtness. If it was somebody else that maybe you just kind of knew, or a friend that maybe was your friend, would you be as distraught? And some would say, well, who could blame him? It's his own flesh and blood. It's his own son. But what was it causing? What was the whole point of the battle to begin with? What was the whole point of following laws or following or doing the good thing, doing what's right, right? What's the point of it? If it's okay for someone that you love to do something inappropriate. So, what I urge you to do is seek the Lord and his guidance. David was going in and out of it with it. He was grieving. But at this time, that grief was more overwhelming. And we're going to see in the next chapter what's going to happen. But I urge you to seek the Lord's guidance. And if it's more so than that, like if it's more so, which there's nothing more than the Lord's guidance. If it's more of you need to hear, you need for somebody to speak to, reach out to the to your brothers and sisters in Christ. Reach out, listen, hear, speak. There are lines out there that you can call, local lines for help and assistance. Get guidance and bring the Lord into it. Say, look, I'm doing this. I'm in emotional distraught, and I know the Lord God is with me. I just need to speak. And the Lord hears you, and the Lord can utilize people to hear you as well. And then also to provide guidance from the Lord. So pray and pray with them. Before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel? What does it make you think?